and welcome to Out of the Darkroom on Adorama TV. I'm Ruth Medjber and today I'm in London and I'm going to be chatting to Philipp Ammon, who is a documentary and commercial photographer.
Adorama TV presents Out of the Darkroom with Ruth Medjber.
Philipp, thanks so much for joining me on the show.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. So listen, tell me a little bit about yourself, how you got started in photography.
For me, it started really with a really crappy little digital camera. I would just find myself shooting just the kind of stuff that now you might find on Instagram, you know, like snails and close-ups and like, you know, sticking the camera lens into random places and trying to just get a new perspective on things. And I just fell in love with that. After I kind of got to the point where I was frustrated with the fact that I couldn't do certain things with that camera, I talked to one of my former art teachers when I went back one summer, and he showed me how to use an SLR. And it kind of was just like, that was it from there on out.
Yeah.
I loved it.
The spark went off. You're
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
now I've got control.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
know what to do.
It was amazing.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about your clients, about the kind of commercial work that you do.
My commercial work generally has been more on the PR side. I've done a lot of like corporate events and that kind of stuff, corporate headshots, those things. Those for me have been the bread and butter that kind of keep me going and allow me to do the kind of personal projects that I want to do.
So for the corporate headshots, how do you go about drumming up business?
Well, I got kind of lucky. I mean, there's been a few things where somebody, you know, I did a shoot here or a shoot there, and somebody's like, "Oh, we need portraits, and can you do that?" And I was like, you know, the kind of trick is to just say yes and
just
then
bluff.
Yeah, and then sort it out
Just
afterwards.
wing it, absolutely.
Hopefully nobody's listening that knows me. But
No, it's fine. I think, I mean, confidence,
yeah,
that's
exactly.
what we're calling it.
There's always a way to make it work.
Yeah.
And I think like the first time I officially, like I did a lot of headshots in university because I was at an arts school, and there was a lot of actors and musicians, and I would do like, "Oh yeah, I'll do your headshots for $30. You know, like, this was in Canada. But you know, that gave me the kind of confidence to start at least charging people for my work, even if it wasn't much. At the time as a student, it was great. You know, it was a great little bit of side income. The hard part about being freelance is that you can be making a ton of money one week and have a really great job, and you think like, oh, this is it, I've finally broken through. And then 2 weeks later, that job's finished, and you're sitting there waiting for a phone call or, you know, waiting to hear back from an editor that you wrote to, and it's just not happening. So I think one of the most important things that I've done that made this happen, and it's a decision I made when I decided I'm going into fine arts, was that I did a teaching degree.
Wow.
And thankfully my university had like a teaching program that you could do consecutively. And I thought, okay, well, I might as well just get this down. And I ended up actually becoming a teacher for a while. Yeah. So I came back to London and decided to do my master's in photojournalism and documentary, because that's what I felt like was my kind of passion in photography.
Wow.
And thankfully the school that I worked at here, it's the American School in London, they allowed me to come back as a supply teacher, which meant I could work really flexibly.
Just speaking more about the fine art kind of documentary work that you do, you've had two major projects. Well, from what I can tell, I'm sure you might be working on something else.
Yeah.
One about the argan Moroccan oil.
Yeah.
And then you had another one as well, wasn't it? So there's the liquid gold rush, and then the ghosts of the apartheid as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was that on the back of your master's degree that you went and you discovered those and you started those projects?
Yeah. So the Ghosts of Apartheid one was before I did my master's. This is kind of what made me decide to take on or focus on documentary work. I got to, with my old high school, they have a charity program that they work through a teacher that used to live in South Africa and work with kids there. They had a charity program where they would send over our students and our teachers to work with the kids and build schools, and it was a really long ongoing project. And I just, like, they asked me if I'd want to come along and do some photos and videos for them, and I said I'd love to, you know.
Yeah.
And that's the point where I started to realize that I really like this kind of work.
Yeah.
And I found myself like not just doing what they asked for, but then like I'd meet some kid somewhere and he'd want to show me something, and I'd follow him and take some pictures of him and his friends, and like it was like suddenly this world that you would never have access to opens up in front of you. And that's where also the Morocco project started off as my final for the, we had to do like a final project for our masters, and at the time I was dating a woman who was importing argan oil from Morocco, and I was hearing a lot about argan oil, and I got really fascinated by what was behind it. And I've always been a bit fascinated about where do the products we use come from.
Wow.
And so I went out to Morocco, and I had met up with one of the suppliers that my partner was working with. And so he kind of had a really good in. And I was asking him a lot of questions, and he gave me some phone numbers, and I started contacting people and interviewing them on camera, like video. And that was a really good basis of research for me, because that gave me some stories and some ideas to follow up so I could visually start creating a visual narrative with photos. And over time, I've kind of developed a relationship with this supplier who was, who actually really enjoyed the work too. And when I got the story sold to Financial Times, I sent it to him just as a reminder, like, look, thanks for helping me with this.
This is what we did, yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, these pictures are so amazing. And what happened is he's now actually supporting the project, and he lets me stay at his place. He lends me his cars, and
wow.
He's kind of just making this project, pushing it along, and we want to make make a book out of it. So
fantastic.
It's like, it's starting to
evolved,
now. Yeah, definitely. And in Morocco, one of the biggest challenges is I'm in the middle of nowhere often, and I'm meeting people whose language I don't speak, and I'm on my own. Yeah. And a lot of times, because of the culture, especially the women, don't want to be photographed.
No.
And I'm never ever going to force it on them. I don't ever.
Sure.
And there is a way that a lot of times they see that you care about their well-being, and you're not there like a tourist to just get some snaps and leave again. They start to warm up to you, and I think that's a really important thing.
There must be a difference, because you shoot here in London a lot, and then you shoot abroad an awful lot as well. How does your gear differ?
On bigger trips, what I do is I've got my big carry-on bag, and I pack the stuff I think I'll need. So I'll pack all the lenses I'm going to use, even the heavy ones, the lights, whatever it is. I think I might need audio equipment, and then I usually leave that wherever I'm staying, and then pack like a day bag to come with me, and that'll be like, depending on what I think I'm going to be doing that day, lighter or heavier.
Oh, wow.
So lights, I tend to try and avoid them if I'm working in the documentary style. I don't like to work with flash, but if I'm doing portraits, then definitely.
Because your editorial portraits, I would have assumed that you'd use light, artificial light with those.
Definitely.
Are you like a speed light fan, or would you go with studio lights?
I like speed lights because they're light, but like when I'm doing like corporate headshots or something, I have like 3 studio lights that I'll bring in. It depends on the situation. There's been times when lights have saved my skin because it's just too dark and you're just not going to get what you need. But generally speaking, in a documentary sense, I don't personally like to use flash. I find it really obtrusive, and it does remind people that you're there more than a shutter click. And
I suppose it also changes the scene.
It does. You're changing the light essentially, and in some cases maybe that doesn't matter. But from a more of a if you're doing a news flash situation, you just might need to get that shot with a flash.
True.
But if you're doing a documentary, and that's kind of more my personal style, and I like to be a fly on the wall. I mean, obviously I like to get to know the people I'm working with, so we're comfortable with each other. But I try to then be as discreet as possible and not get in the way of things, and I find flash does that.
Flashing away then. But in terms, I was looking over your editorial portraits, and I definitely spotted some lights there.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you be like a speed light fan, or would you be more in favor of studio lights?
I love speed lights for short editorial things. Like if I know I'm going to be meeting so and so out in the park or whatever, then I always bring some flashes and some remote triggers for them.
Would you? Yeah. Do like off-camera kind of stuff?
Yeah, and like if I can, I ask either them to bring somebody along, because like usually there's no budget to bring an assistant in this case. So I ask, like sometimes they'll bring their manager, or they'll bring somebody with them anyway, and then I'm just like, hey, you.
Yeah.
Can you hold this and just point it at
them? Hold all of our bags, stand out a shot, be my light stand.
It's great. It works well.
Sometimes it's the best way to do it. But I presume you don't do your corporate headshots in that fashion.
No. Corporate headshots, there was a funny story with that. I had taken a job and done this commercial work, and they really liked it, and they're like, okay, well, we need some headshots. Can you do that as well? And I said, yeah. And then I went home and I was like, oh man, I can't do that with my,
speed lights.
My speed lights. So I looked at my savings account and I thought, okay, not looking too great, but I'm going to take a risk.
Oh.
And I went to the lighting shop in central London, and I bought myself a set of studio lights and some flash modifiers, and I thought, well, this is an investment. It's going to help me make more money in the long run. So I went in, and literally on the way home, I got a phone call saying there had been a problem with where I was living, and we had to move out, and we had the weekend to get out, and I had no deposit money and all this stuff. It ended up working out
But you had
in the end.
lights.
Yeah, I had lights. It ended up working out in the end. In my living situation, that was a different story. I could maybe tell you guys about.
That was
a bit about,
it. But you made the jump, and you're like, it's an investment. I need to do it, and you just went for it. And
yeah.
I guess it's paid off now, right?
Oh, it paid itself off in the first.
In the first job.
In the first job, and then after that, what I like to do with the equipment is I like to look at what it costs to rent it. So when I'm calculating, when somebody asks, what would you charge for this? Then I look at what it would cost to rent that equipment, and I add that into the equipment fee of the pricing, because then you're renting the equipment to yourself. And that means that when it breaks down or when it gets old, you've still been actively putting into that wear and tear of it.
Oh,
So
it makes a lot of sense.
I think it's a smart way to do it.
So you've got quite a lot of kit, really, haven't you? Building up over the years.
Yeah, it builds up. Yeah. I mean, and then you kind of learn what you don't need, and you sell things off, and it kind of depends on what way you work. And I think in the beginning, the tendency is to just want to like buy the next cool lens and the next cool camera and the next cool this and that. And then you realize you don't even need that lens or you don't need that light. And
I think you soon get over the whole need to just keep buying gear,
Yeah.
buying gear. Once you have your 24-70 and you love it, you keep it, and then a couple other lenses, the other side of that.
Yeah, I still get tempted sometimes when I'm like, oh, I really love that camera. It might help me work better when I'm, in a street situation.
Sure, we all say that. It's like, oh wow, new diffuser, that looks handy.
Yeah.
It's so lightweight. I can justify this to the end of the earth, but
There's always a market for it.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, we love shopping. But,
exactly.
Oh, it's fantastic. Listen, I can't wait to see more of your work, and I hope to see the book as well someday.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Sounds fascinating. But thanks so much for taking time out to come and chat to me today. It's been brilliant. Cheers, Philip. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed today's show. If you have any comments, please feel free to leave them below. I really do appreciate the feedback. If you'd like to see more videos, then subscribe to the Adorama channel here on YouTube. And as always, if you want to brush up on your own photography skills, check out the Adorama Learning Centre. Thanks, and I'll see you again real soon.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use adoramapix.com.